This is the Louie T Network.
See, first come the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then my team was 6-10, and we ain't smell the playoffs. Yeah, I seen the Super Bowl, but I heard they just play balls. A lot of teams had injuries. Sam Bradford had to take off. Go hard in the offseason, but you don't know the half. Before you know, we gon' look up, and we ready for the draft. They dressed up in that suit top, and I don't know how to act. They waiting, so patient, so they can put on that hat. Who else could it be? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks you where you was at, you tell her you in the lab room. Who else could it be? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks where you was at, you can tell her you was in the lab room. Yeah.
Back with part 2 of the hurry up offense for week number 14 in the National Football League. Off to Baltimore we go. Seattle Seahawks at the Baltimore Ravens. Seahawks have been scorching hot of late. Winners of 3 straight games, looking to make it 4 consecutive wins as they continue to play outstanding football. And a lot of people wrote them off after the loss to the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday Night Football. Since then, they've been dominant on the offensive side of the football, scoring up over 30 in 2 straight contests. On those 3, scored 29 versus the 49ers. And they've had this offensive explosion, and at the head of that offensive explosion has been dangerous Russell Wilson. And he had to take over, okay? No Marshawn Lynch, no more Jimmy Graham. It's time for him to take the reins. This defense had not been playing lights out football this season. And so, look, it's on him. They paid him the big bucks and gave him the huge contract in the offseason. Time for him to take this team by the reins and become not just the leader, because I think he's already been a leader on this team well before he got the deal. It's time for him to have his play reflect the leadership that he has shown on that football team and in the locker room. Have itself play out on the field by them giving him more control of the offense and asking him to do more. And that he has 16 touchdowns, no interceptions over the last 4 games. 2 games of 5 touchdowns, 2 games of 3 touchdowns over the last 4 games for a whopping total of 16. Some quarterbacks don't even have 16 touchdown passes on the season. This guy has it in 4 weeks. They've scored up over 30 points in 3 straight contests. I didn't think that was something that this Seattle Seahawks offense could do, okay? And you could argue the competition hasn't been that great, but they went on the road against a Minnesota Vikings team that has been stingy all season long, and they went and blazed those boys and put up 38 and could have put up 50 if they wanted to. They called the dogs off in that game. This Seattle Seahawks offense has taken steps, dramatic steps, leaps and bounds even. Now the question has been for me is, where is the defense? Are those guys going to return to the form that has made this team the NFC Championship team over the last 2 seasons? And they're on the right track. They're trending in the right direction. The defense coming along since they benched and subsequently released Kerry Williams and inserted Deshaun Shedd into the lineup. They've been shutting down teams. Now again, haven't had the greatest competition, and even the Vikings don't qualify as a good offense for you to really measure up this defense and see where they are. When they've played elite offensive, they've been shredded this season. Cincinnati, Arizona, Pittsburgh, the list goes on and on. Every team that can score has scored. Carolina, throw them in the mix as well this season on this Seahawks defense. So I'm anxious to see when the Seahawks have a big test in front of them offensively, can this defense respond the way they have over the last month of the season? Thomas Rawls' injury, huge in this ball game. He goes down with an ankle injury. It's not broken. I don't think he's going to have to require surgery, so that's a big plus for them. But at some point, Marshawn Lynch, Thomas Rawls, someone's going to have to enter back into the backfield, because the guys that you have back there right now currently aren't going to be able to get the job done. DeJuan Harris, he was nice in Green Bay. That's not the type of guy you're going to be able to hitch the wagon to in the postseason and late in the season when you have to have it. And so you'd love to hand it to Fred Jackson, but old man Jackson is exactly that. He's a guy that you bring in, throw a couple screens to, maybe hand off a draw to the football to in situations where you're thinking, okay, maybe third and manageable, we want to get the football in his hands. He's a third down back right now at this point of his career, not a guy you want to hand it off to 24 times. So I think right now the sentiment in Seattle is that anybody has to come back, whether it be Lynch or Rawls, over the next 3 or 4 weeks to get back for the postseason. If this team makes the postseason, and I feel pretty confident in saying that I feel like the Seahawks are going to be one of the 6 NFC postseason participants. Doug Baldwin has been out of bounds over the last month or so. With Russell Wilson's emergence, has come Doug Baldwin's emergence, and I think those two are kind of linked and tied together. When he's playing at a high level, this offense performs so much better, and it opens up things for everyone else, and you're starting to see the emergence of your rookie Tyler Lockett as well. He was great in the returns game early in the season. Now he's starting to come into his own as a receiver, and so guys had to step up. When Jimmy Graham went out, and I actually thought that it might have been a plus. I hate to say that because you went out, you paid money, and you made the trade for Jimmy Graham to bring him in to be a weapon this time of the year, but fact of the matter is, I thought they had trouble integrating Jimmy Graham. I thought sometimes they went out of their way to try to get him the football. It messed up the chemistry of this offense. Now with him gone, you can go back to the way this team was constructed before he got here, where you rely on your receivers to make plays, where you rely on this offense as a whole and not just one guy to carry the load. And so now you're starting to see Russell Wilson take over. Guys are getting open. They're winning one-on-one matchups, and they're scoring touchdowns. And this is a big change from the Seattle team that could only muster 20 or 23 points. Now they're scoring 35, 38, 39, and they're really being explosive offensively, and they did it again in this game versus the Baltimore Ravens. For the Ravens, this season can't be over fast enough. And the Ravens are down to their 3rd string quarterback now. Jimmy Clausen, they got him 3 weeks ago off waivers, and he's now starting in this game, and this is the 2nd time he started against Seattle. At least he scored some points this time. He started against Seattle when he was a Chicago Bear earlier in the season and got shut out. So at least he was able to help produce some points in this game. But this team right now, they're just a shell of themselves, and it's really not much they can do down the stretch. It looks like they may get Matt Schaub back, but really what does that mean? Maybe you'll get another pick 6 when he comes back. But too many defensive breakdowns. There were defensive breakdowns galore in this game, and that's the story of this Baltimore Ravens team. Even when they're healthy, there are too many defensive breakdowns in that secondary, whether it's the safety position or the cornerbacks. They're not doing a good enough job of doing their job, and so you're getting wide open guys like Doug Baldwin in the back of the end zone, like Tyler Lockett in the back of the end zone, catching touchdown passes. And it was just a mess out there. 5 touchdown tosses from Russell Wilson. No resistance by this Ravens defense. They lose the football game 35-6. The Ravens drop to 4-9 on the season. Seahawks go to 8-5, and they put some distance between them and the rest of the field in the wild card chase. No team in the NFC right now currently has 7 wins. So you go from the 2 wild card teams in Minnesota and Seattle at 8-5 to the rest of the field being at 6-7 or less. So you feel good about those 2 wild card teams really being able to lock it up and get into the postseason. Big win for the Ravens. Big win for the Seahawks. They did what they were supposed to do to a bad opponent on the road, put up another 30 spot in Seattle. New Orleans at Tampa Bay. This was a game that was very disappointing because I talked about this in my picks video that every time I pick Tampa Bay, they go out, they lay an egg, and every time you think they're ready to turn the corner, this happens. And they did it against Indy a couple weeks back where you felt good about them. They got to 5-5 on the season. You're saying, wow, they got to 500. They're playing great football. They had just come off of the destruction of the Philadelphia Eagles, and you felt good about them. They go to Indy, they lay an egg, they lose that football game. Then they come back, they win last week, and you say to yourself, wow, big win against the Falcons. Even though the Falcons were struggling, you still thought maybe the Falcons could turn their season around. They weren't able to. Buccaneers get it done. And then you say, okay, maybe they have a shot. They have a legitimate shot in the NFC to make the postseason. You look at the rest of their schedule and you say, it's a doable schedule. Got to beat the Saints, who are struggling. They've already beat this team once this season. You felt like they could do the same thing they did to Atlanta, to New Orleans, and they let the Saints come into their house and get them real quick for the Saints. Willie Snead, huge in this game. His best game as a pro. I thought he was magnificent in this game. Marcus Colston turns back the clock with 2 touchdown catches in this game. It was just good to see him get involved. Tim Hightower, what a feel-good story he is. Ex-Redskin, ex-Cardinal, tears his knee up, shreds it. Is out of the league for a couple of years. Looks like his NFL career is done. Gets a shot with the Saints. All the injuries to the running back position there gives him an opportunity. He comes in, has a really good game. Wasn't a great game. When you look at his stats, they don't overwhelm you, but had some big runs late in the game, had a touchdown, helped them seal this game up. He was really good. When they needed him, he came up big, and that's a feel-good story for Tim Hightower. I'm really proud of the Saints. Let me say this right now, because I was hard on the Saints. I thought they had quit. When I looked at that team, when they lost to, who was it, a couple of weeks back, where they just showed no effort. They had lost to the Texans, and maybe that was the game that did it for me, where I said, this team's quit. They didn't show any effort in that game. They didn't have any touchdowns. It was like 24-6, and the Texans have been playing better football of late, but they're not good enough to just drub a team like that. And I thought the Saints just laid down in that game, and they looked like they had pretty much quit this season, and I thought they were done. And then for them to go out and scare Carolina, put a charge into them and almost win that game, and then to go on the road and beat Tampa Bay, shows me that they're still not only playing for Sean Payton, but that they're still putting up a little bit of resistance. And maybe this thing isn't done in New Orleans. I don't know. It's so up in the air, and it's just so hard to predict. This league is. You still don't know what's going to happen with this Saints team. They could go fall flat on their face the remaining 3 games of the season, and everything could blow up and change like I think it's going to. But these last 2 weeks have me kind of contradicting myself and kind of in my head internally struggling with this team and the franchise and the direction in the offseason, because maybe Drew Brees isn't done in New Orleans. Maybe Sean Payton isn't done in New Orleans. Maybe the whole notion of dramatic change and overhaul isn't coming. Maybe the sky isn't falling in New Orleans. I don't know. This is a big win for them on the road versus Tampa Bay. You look at it from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers perspective, Jameis Winston, not his sharpest in this game, okay? I thought he missed some throws that he normally hits. I thought he had some guys open. The throw that sticks out like a sore thumb to me is late in the ball game, you're down 7, you need it. Charles Sims streaking down the sideline, one-on-one with a linebacker. He's got at least 2 steps, maybe even 3, on the closest defender. If he hits him in stride, it's a touchdown, and this game is knotted up at 24. He overshoots him by about 2 yards, and those are the type of throws that you need to hit, and Jameis has been hitting over the last couple of weeks. And then I thought the game had an ominous start to it. First play of the game, you throw it to B-Jax, he catches it, runs, picks up a good chunk of yardage. We're talking about 35, 40 yards on the first play of the game, only to have it called back via penalty. And I thought that was a back-breaking play. I didn't think that you responded well to that adversity in the first half. And the adversity that I felt like you didn't respond to in the second half that I thought was back-breaking and that you never really recovered from in the entire game was the drive where it was 17-10. You put together a nice drive, not able to cap it off with a touchdown, but you get in the field goal range, and Connor Barth misses the field goal. Instead of the score being 17-13 with you have scoring 10 straight points and having all the momentum in the game, you give the momentum, and not only the momentum, but the field position back to the Saints. They go down the field, they get a touchdown, they end up winning the game at 24-17. You had the opportunities, big drop by Dye late in the ball game. Jameis hits him right there on a crucial 3rd or 4th down late in the game. I want to say it was a 3rd down, and he dropped the football. Got to have that one. And then you had opportunities to get stops. You had Benjamin Watson bottled up on a 3rd and 2. Got to make that tackle. He's able to get through that tackle, stretch the ball past the first down marker, and then you had to start using your timeouts because you weren't able to get that stop. And then you had a chance at least to get the football back late in the game, right after the 2-minute warning. They give the football to Tim Hightower on a pitch. You got him bottled up, you let him power through your defenders and get the first down, and that was all she wrote. They were able to take knees after that. Big win for the Saints. Tough and debilitating loss for the Buccaneers, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. They're young and they're not ready yet. And this game, to me, pretty much cements that as the Buccaneers lose 24-17 at home. They're building something in Tampa Bay. They're just not finished quite yet. They dropped to 6-7, and for all intents and purposes, that puts them away in the NFC wildcard chase. Of course, they're going to still be in the hunt. They're not mathematically eliminated, but to think that Seattle's going to lose out, to think that Minnesota's going to lose out and give you an opportunity, slim to none chances that those two teams don't make the postseason. And New Orleans, that's a big win. Let's see what they do with this win and if they are able to parlay this into a nice finish to the season. San Francisco at Cleveland. This was a big game for the Browns because you really feel like this thing is going in the wrong direction yet again. And I'm hearing reports that they're thinking about getting rid of General Manager Ray Farmer. They're thinking about getting rid of their head coach Mike Patton. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And if this thing is going to work and if they're going to keep the train moving in the same direction, then Johnny Manziel has to work for this franchise in order for them to not blow this up and move in a different direction. Let's start with the 49ers in this game. Lackluster performance coming off of their first road victory of the season against the Bears in overtime. I thought it was a dramatic win. I thought it was a confidence-boosting win. I thought they would build off of that. You get Johnny Manziel in his first start after the self-imposed, sanctions that were put on him by the team. You're thinking, okay, he might be a little rusty. You got a chance to go in there and really jump on these boys and give yourself a chance to get 2 road wins in a row after not having any the first 12 weeks of the season. And I just thought they came out and they were flat in this game with the 49ers. They could not stop the run. We're talking about one of the worst team rushing the football in the Cleveland Browns, and you give it up in a major way. You were able to generate some turnovers. You forced Johnny Manziel into a bad decision. Weren't able to take advantage of that. I thought the one you really dropped the ball on was you forced Duke Johnson to fumble early in the ball game. Great field position. You're deep in Browns territory. And you really didn't do much with that one either. And so those are the type of mistakes that bad teams make, and that's what this 49ers team is. And so they gave themselves a chance and they didn't take advantage of it. Even though they came out with a lousy start, they still had opportunities. They didn't take advantage of them and they got blazed in this game. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns in this game. Johnny Pigskin, he's excited and good to see him on the field. I actually thought he threw the football well in this game. Thought he made some plays, escaped the pocket and kept plays alive that normally would not have been extended had Josh McCown or some other quarterback been in the lineup. And so you feel good about what he brings to the table. He's a very exciting, enigmatic, and very polarizing figure in Cleveland. And you want to see him do well because I think they can build something. They've got talent on that team. They've got defensive talent. And speaking of defensive talent, Nate Orchard, 2 sacks in this game. I told you, I thought the draft class last year was exceptional. You got pieces to build with. You just need stability at the quarterback position. And because of the stability that you may gain from Johnny Manziel, and let's see, again, 49ers not a really good team. They really played well against a bad team where you want to see them play better, and they've got some divisional games to finish out the season. You want to see how they fare in some of these games when the competition level is greater. But Isaiah Crowell, 145 yards on the ground, and with Johnny Manziel comes an element of surprise and a little bit more discipline necessary from defensive ends because of the read option and his threat of him using his legs. And so it opens up things in the run game for the Cleveland Browns, and you saw that their run game was revitalized and they got some chunks in the run game. Crowell was outstanding. Duke Johnson had some good carries. I thought they did some nice things there. And so this was a good win, 24-10. Browns get it done at home, and you're hoping they finish the season strong and that they don't blow this thing up and that Johnny Manziel is in fact the quarterback that they thought he was when they drafted him in the first round, because they need some stability at that position if they're going to have any chance in the AFC North moving forward. Detroit at St. Louis. This one was a really snoozer of a game. This one wasn't a very aesthetically pleasing game. 2 bad football teams, so it's probably much of what you expected going into it, but I thought that there were some opportunities for the Lions to win this game. I thought the Rams, they took advantage of some opportunities and they were able to get it done. These were 2 coaches that I asked the question to myself, are you going to get fired, Jeff Fisher? I asked that, and once you start firing coordinators and things, you know that you start kind of pulling away at the fibers and the foundation of your staff. You're next. And so Frank Signetti gets canned as offensive coordinator, and you start pointing fingers and placing blame and elsewhere. That's when you're starting to feel the heat yourself as a coach. And then you look at it from the Detroit Lions perspective. New general manager and team president going to probably be coming in at the end of the season. And normally when you get a new general manager, new team president, they want to go in their own direction. And so I thought that the Lions had done a great job of saving Jim Caldwell's job right around the midseason point around Thanksgiving. You said to yourself, wow, I mean, they're playing outstanding football. They reeled off, 4 out of 5 games, and they were feeling good about themselves, and they were right back in the discussion of postseason talk. It was faint, but it was 14 that started 0-7. You said, wow, or 0-6. You're like, wow, I mean, these guys are back in the discussion for the postseason, and now they kind of lulled. That Green Bay game was a gut punch. And so now you're feeling like, are they going to fall back into their old ways and start struggling? And this game kind of looked like the Lions from earlier in the season where they couldn't buy a win. Poor decision by Matthew Stafford on the pick 6 to Tremaine Johnson. He forced it to Calvin Johnson. Tremaine Johnson was sitting on the route. He undercut it, jumped it, got in the end zone. And you can't give those type of plays away when you're a struggling offense and a struggling team like the Lions are. Thought the officials did no justice to the Detroit Lions. That was a horrible call on the chop block on Theo Riddick. He literally did not engage in a guy that was being blocked. He cut blocked a defender that he was up, singled on by himself. It was a terrible, egregious call. And if you want to know why you need replay to review some calls, that's exactly why. Because on that same very play, Golden Tate catches the football, runs it down to the 4-yard line. The Lions are going to score, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown or whatever. They're going to get some points, barring a turnover on that possession. And because of that poor call, all of a sudden you're back near midfield instead of at the 4-yard line, first and goal from the 4-yard line. So that was a huge call in the game. I thought it was a terrible job of officiating, but what's new, the officials have been terrible this year, and that, to me, kind of speaks volumes as to how bad the officials have been all season long. But at the end of the day, we can sit here and blame the officials all we want. You can't let Todd Gurley do it, okay? The one guy you go into the Rams game saying is, we have to stop Todd Gurley, and maybe a close second is Tavon Austin. Don't let those guys do us. Anybody else, if they want to have their quarterback, and who the hell is that quarterback for the Rams these days? You don't even know, because they've been playing musical chairs with that position. But you're saying to yourself, if they want Case Keenum to do us, go ahead, have Case Keenum try and do us. Try me. But don't let Todd Gurley get you, man. Don't let the one dude that can do you. And he did you. 2 touchdowns, $140 on only 16 carries. He took over in the second half. You did a great job of not allowing him to get off in the first half. And as the story has been for Todd Gurley all season long, in the second half, he's been lights out, and he was in this game. They got him the football, and he did the rest. Had an opportunity. With all of that being said, you had an opportunity with an onside kick, with the late touchdown that you scored. You recovered the onside kick. You got all 3 of your timeouts. You're right around midfield. You got every opportunity to go down. Got the momentum, and you don't do anything with it. And so, it is what it is. That's the Lions football team in a nutshell this season. You move on to the St. Louis Rams. I thought the offense made a commitment to the run game, something that Frank Signetti failed to do over the last, 4 games on that 4 or 5 game losing streak that you were on. There were games where Todd Gurley would have 8 carries, which is asinine. This is the reason why you had been winning early in the season, because this guy was carrying you on his back. And all of a sudden now you make a quarterback change, and yeah, you're not sustaining offense. I understand that. Hard to get into a rhythm and call plays and get carries, but that guy should never have less than 15 carries in any given ball game. And so they made a commitment to the run in this game, and it worked. I think the defense and the run game were the catalyst for this win. You had Aaron Donald. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. With 3 sacks in this game, he's got 11 on the season. That guy is just stays amazing, is what he is. Probably the best interior rushing defensive tackle in the league. And he leads the league in sacks from the defensive tackle position. So I think that speaks to that notion right there. And you got a pick 6 from Tremaine Johnson. He almost had another pick in this game. I thought the defense was outstanding. And if you're going to win, the run game has to be big, and it was. And the defense has to be big, and it was. And so that's pretty much why you won this football game. Is Jeff Fisher going to be back? Maybe. Look, I think he's a mediocre coach. I like Jeff Fisher, I like him a lot, but he's a mediocre coach. And this Rams team, since he's taken over, been mediocre. And you could argue, we just need a quarterback. Well, he made the trade for Nicholas Foles, and now he's benched before, one whole season in St. Louis. So you be the judge. All I know is that I don't think the Rams are going anywhere. I think they're going to remain in St. Louis. They're making a push to keep them there. I don't know what's going to happen with that franchise, but I don't know if Jeff Fisher is the answer or not. But they get the win 21-14, go to 5-8 on the season, snap that nasty 4 or 5 game losing streak that they were on for the Lions. A lot of questions, not enough answers. They're 4-9 on the season after the loss. Big one in Denver, the Oakland Raiders taking on the Denver Broncos. Everybody thought the Oakland Raiders were done. I thought the Oakland Raiders were done. And they're not going to make the postseason. That's pretty much gone because the AFC has so many good wild card teams that it's just all but impossible that the Denver Broncos, the Oakland Raiders will be able to get back into that discussion. They had to win last week versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and they didn't do so. So that pretty much puts them to rest. But they still are out there playing their asses off, and they showed it in this game. And they had every opportunity to lay down and allow the Denver Broncos to run away with this game, but they stood up. Nothing offensively in the first half. Negative 12 yards for the Oakland Raiders in the first half. It was that type of start to the game for them. They could get nothing going, and they could have easily been down 20-0 at halftime. And they probably should have been down 20-0 at halftime. But the defense bowed up. Their back was strong and firm. And in the red zone, in the green zone, inside the 5, twice, they were able to stand tall and force the Denver Broncos to kick field goals. And instead of this game being 20-0 at half, it was 12-0 because all the Broncos could do was muster 4 field goals. I thought the young boys continue to show why Reggie McKenzie is doing a bang-up job in Oakland. They put in work. You had Ben Heaney making some huge plays in this game. Seth Roberts made some huge plays, including that opening drive of the first or second half, I should say, where he scored the touchdown to get the Raiders on the board. Clyde Walford made catch after catch after catch in this game. You got Rivera making the touchdown grab, and he had some huge catches in this football game. You got Khalil Mack. What can we say? Return of the Mack. Oh yeah, return of the Mack. 5 sacks in this game. I don't know if he really got 5 sacks. I think he more had about 4, maybe 3.5. I think they gave him some credit for some sacks that he created, but he didn't bring the quarterback down. But that's another discussion for another day. The dude was destructive in this game, responsible for a safety, a forced fumble, and 5 sacks. The guy was all over the field. He was destroying the Denver Broncos line single-handedly. And so I just felt like the Raiders did a lot of things well to keep themselves in this ball game and give themselves a chance. Dumb decision to go for 2 of 3. And I understand that John Kondo hurt himself on the fumble recovery from the muffed punt by E-Man Sam, but I don't want to hear that. If I'm not mistaken, and if you're a Raiders fan and you remember this, about 3-4 years ago on a Monday night to start the season off, John Kondo gets injured and you don't have a backup long snapper and you lose the game because you couldn't snap the football all night. It's a train wreck. Maybe you won the game, maybe you lost it. I believe you lost the game. It was a pathetic performance because you couldn't snap the football. Why would you not have someone that's an emergency long snapper on your team? You don't go for 2 in that situation. You ask the Steelers, yeah, they go for 2. You don't do that though. Kick the extra point. I'm not going to have this discussion, but it didn't cost them at the end of the day. They won the game, but it should have cost them because Brandon McManus misses a field goal. And you can argue Seabass misses a field goal later in the game. You can say, well, hell, we missed a field goal too, but at the end of the day, you got to kick the extra point there. Go up 4 and put the Broncos in a position where they have to score a touchdown. Either way, let's go to the Broncos in this game because I think this was more a situation where the Broncos lost the game than the Oakland Raiders actually won this game. I don't want to take anything away from the Raiders. They went out, they hung tough, and they gave themselves a chance, and they took this game at the end. But the Denver Broncos had every opportunity to win this game, and they just simply failed to do so. Thought they squandered some opportunities in the first half by settling for 4 field goals. You can't get to the 4-yard line, you can't get to the 2-yard line and not get in. They did that in the first half. and Virgil Green was wide open in the back of the end zone. Brock Osweiler, first of all, he was late. He should have got the football to him immediately. He was open as soon as he snapped the football. Virgil Green was open, and then he threw it poorly, way high. Just a bad throw, bad execution by Brock Osweiler, and that's one of those plays you say, hey, Peyton's struggling, but Peyton doesn't miss that one. And that was a huge play in the game, because if you miss that one, and then you ultimately have to settle for a field goal. Got to get a touchdown at some point. They never did in that first half, and that's why it was 12-0 to go into the halftime break. Too many Broncos mistakes in this game to win. And so we can look at all these mistakes. That was just the first half, 7 field goals. Second half, totally different story. Same Broncos errors. This time it cost them on the scoreboard, whereas in the first half, their mistakes didn't cost them on the scoreboard. From a defensive standpoint, it cost them on their side of things. Brock Osweiler fumbles in the end zone. That allows the Raiders to get a safety. Then you have the E-Man muffed punt. That turns into a Michael Rivera go-ahead touchdown score. Brandon McManus misses a field goal in the second half that would have knotted the game up at 15. You got a third down, Demaryius Thomas double 8 drop, which was huge at the time. You're talking about under 6 minutes to go in the game. You're right around that midfield area. If he catches that one and converts, you're right around your own 45 or so. Instead, he drops it. You got to punt the football, give it back to the Raiders. And then Vernon Davis with the most massive of massive drops in this game on a 4th and 5. He was wide open for probably a 25 to 30 yard gain. If he catches this and is able to make the safety miss, he might go the distance. Instead, he drops the football, gives it back to the Raiders. It gives them an opportunity to put this game on ice. You make those kind of mistakes, and you're gonna lose the football. You're bound to lose the football game when you make those type of mistakes. And that's what the Denver Broncos did in this game, and they deserve to lose this game. They did not deserve to win because they made too many costly errors to win this ball game. Raiders hold on 15-12. Khalil Mack, outstanding in this game. He now leads the NFL in sacks with 14 after his 5-sack performance, and he dominated. It didn't matter if he was lined up in front of the left or right tackle. He bullied both of them, and he was just relentless on the day. And my hat's off to the Oakland Raiders because they could have packed it in for the rest of the season. At 5-7 coming into this game, daunting task going on the road to play a Denver Broncos team that already came to your house and beat you already. They had been on a nice winning streak since Brock Osweiler entered the lineup. They were down 12-0 at half. They could have packed it in, could the Raiders, but they stood tall. They showed their heart, and they showed the maturation that they're going through. This is a different team. There's a different mindset in Oakland, and they found a way to win a game that traditionally this franchise would have lost at some point in this game. 15-12, Raiders go to 6-7 on the season. Broncos spoil an opportunity to be the number 1 seed out and out in the AFC, now dropping to 10-3 on the season. And finally, the Monday night game, Giants at the Dolphins. Very entertaining contest, up and down, back and forth. Thought the Dolphins went away from the run way too early. Lamar Miller was gashing the New York Giants. He scored 2 touchdowns on the day. Both of them impressive runs. Both of them coming in the first half. And I thought they went away from him in the second half. Only 12 carries for 85 yards. He may have had 80 yards rushing on 10 carries in the first half. I mean, he was dominating in the first half. And they just simply stopped running the football. Ryan Tannehill, 41 passing attempts. And this is what happens when you have different play callers, and they just gave the play calling to Zach Taylor, who's the quarterback's coach. And again, quarterback's coach, 41 passing attempts. You do the math. You do the whole psychological equation there. You see what's going on there. He's a quarterback's coach. Of course he wants to throw the football 41 times and abandon what was working, which was the run. And so very disappointed that they weren't able to get the football in the hands of a guy that was dominating on the night. But at the end of the day, this was more about the lack of pressure on Eli Manning and the inability to stop Odell Beckham Jr. Shame on you when you step to the old dirty backup. That was the difference in this game. the inability to get up in receiver space, jam him at the line of scrimmage, disrupt the timing of the routes. Eli Manning only had 2 incompletions the entire night, maybe 3. Either way, up over 80% completion percentage with more than 30 attempts. Ridiculous. And nobody, and I mean nobody outside of Olivier Vernon tried to even get close to Eli Manning on the night. It was ridiculous. And the secondary just couldn't hold up. Odell Beckham Jr. went off. And your end results, a 31-24 win for the New York Giants. They had to have it, and they got it done. And they had a slew of injuries in this game, especially along that defensive line. They stood tall and got it done when they needed to. I thought it was a well-played ball game on both sides. I didn't like the play calling from the Dolphins standpoint. And the Giants easily could have fell into the trap again. Remember, blew the Patriots game, blew the Cowboys game earlier in the season because of bad clock management. Probably should have run at the end of the game, but they put it in Eli's hands, who had been shredding this Dolphins secondary and defense all game long. And he did it one final time on 3rd and 5 with a completion to who else but ODB, who catches it and secures the victory. Giants get it done, remain in first place in the NFC East in a 3-way tie at 6-7. Huge matchup at home versus the undefeated 13-0 Panthers coming up for the Giants. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, that one pretty much, they were done already before this game started, but this one pretty much puts them to rest as far as AFC wildcard discussion is concerned now at 5-8 on the season. Love the throwbacks though. Those were cute, those were pretty, but you didn't get it done at home on Monday night. So that's going to do it for the hurry up offense for week 14. See you later in the week. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.
Mm-hmm.